Papua New Guinea, a nation of just over 10 million people. On the map, it looks small, almost hidden under the shadow of Australia and Southeast Asia. Yet this small nation sits on resources and industries that feed into trillion-dollar global markets. Coffee, cocoa, liquefied natural gas, fisheries, even rare minerals. But here's the question: how does a small nation like Papua New Guinea actually compete in the same markets as giants like the United States, China, or Europe? And more importantly, are we really competing, or are we just supplying raw materials for others to profit from? Stay with me, because this story isn't just about trade, it's about power, identity, and whether PNG is willing to step up from being a supplier to becoming a real player. Let's picture the global economy as a massive arena. On one side, you have the giants: China, the US, the European Union. Their economies run into the tens of trillions of dollars. They control technology, supply chains, shipping routes, and international finance. On the other side, you have small nations like Papua New Guinea, Fiji, or Jamaica, economies measured in billions, not trillions, populations smaller than some of China's cities. So how do small nations survive in such an uneven fight? They don't try to outmuscle the giants, they specialize. They find niches where they can produce something so unique that the world cannot ignore them. Look at Jamaica's Blue Mountain coffee. It sells for up to $100 per pound, not because Jamaica produces the most, but because it produces something rare and branded. Look at Fiji Water. A small island nation turned bottled water into a global luxury brand. Look at Switzerland, landlocked, no cocoa trees, yet it controls the global image of premium chocolate. The lesson is clear: size doesn't decide everything, strategy does. Now, let's bring PNG into the spotlight. Coffee, PNG, produces less than 1% of the world's coffee. Yet our beans, grown in volcanic soil at high altitude, are sought after by specialty roasters in Europe, Japan, and the US. The global coffee industry is worth around $495 billion. Imagine if PNG could position itself not just as a supplier of green beans, but as a brand, like PNG Highlands Coffee, world's best organic. Cocoa. The cocoa industry worldwide is valued at $110 billion. PNG produces less than 1% again. But here's the catch: our cocoa is organic, naturally grown, pesticide-free. That's a gold mine for premium chocolate makers in Europe. Right now, a kilo of cocoa beans might sell for a few kina in PNG. But that same cocoa, once processed into chocolate in Europe, sells for 50 times the price. Biggest export earner, liquefied natural gas. Asia is hungry for energy, and LNG demand in countries like China, Japan, and South Korea is massive, worth over $450 billion globally. But ask yourself this: is PNG capturing wealth from LNG, or are multinational corporations taking the lion's share? Fisheries PNG controls one of the largest tuna fisheries in the Pacific, yet most of that tuna is caught by foreign fleets, canned overseas, and sold in supermarkets worldwide. Again, we supply raw fish. Others make the profit. So yes, PNG is part of trillion-dollar markets. But the real question is, are we competing, or are we just feeding the giants? This is where the debate begins. On one hand, PNG is rich in resources. We export coffee, cocoa, LNG, gold, tuna, palm oil. These products enter the global economy and contribute to trillion-dollar trade flows. But on the other hand, when you look closer, PNG often sits at the bottom of the value chain. We sell raw beans, raw logs, raw fish, raw gas. The big profits happen elsewhere, in factories in Europe, in processing plants in Asia, in boardrooms in Houston, Tokyo, and Beijing. So let me ask you, is PNG a competitor in global markets, or just a supplier that keeps the system running for others? This is the uncomfortable truth. Small nations often face exploitation because they lack infrastructure, capital, and bargaining power. Shipping costs are high, roads are poor, factories are scarce, and foreign companies know this. That's why they come in, take the raw materials, and leave us with little more than royalties and aid projects. But here's the hopeful side. PNG does not have to stay at the bottom. Small nations can climb the value chain. The formula is clear: branding and quality. Instead of just exporting beans, create a global PNG coffee brand. Tell the story. Highlands coffee grown by family farmers on volcanic soil. People pay for authenticity. Example: Ethiopia built its coffee reputation this way. PNG can too. Value-added processing. Build factories at home. Process cocoa into chocolate. Can tuna in Papua New Guinea, not in Thailand. Bottle water from our own natural springs. Every step of processing adds profit. Strategic trade deals. Negotiate with Asia and Europe to secure better market access. Use digital platforms and blockchain to provide traceability so buyers trust PNG's organic label. Youth and SME empowerment support small businesses and young entrepreneurs. They are the ones who can innovate packaging, marketing, and online sales. For example, a PNG startup exporting small batches of roasted coffee directly to consumers in Australia. Now let's be honest, it's not easy. PNG faces real barriers: corruption in resource management, weak government policy enforcement, lack of infrastructure, no good roads, unreliable electricity, dependence on foreign aid and loans, and the biggest challenge, mindset. For decades, we've been told we're just a resource-rich country supplying raw materials. Changing that story means building confidence, investing in skills, and demanding better deals. But isn't this exactly what small nations need to do if they want to escape poverty? Let me give you a sharp contrast. A kilo of PNG cocoa beans might sell for 8 kina. That same cocoa, once processed into luxury chocolate in Europe, sells for 300. Do you see the problem? We're exporting wealth and importing poverty. So what does real competition look like for PNG? It looks like this: PNG branded coffee on supermarket shelves in London, Tokyo, and New York. Premium PNG chocolate bars sold online, telling the story of our farmers. LNG deals, where more of the profits stay in Port Moresby, funding schools, hospitals, and roads. PNG owned fishing companies canning tuna in Lae and exporting to the world. Tech-savvy youth selling PNG products online using e-commerce and digital trade platforms. This is not impossible. Vietnam did it with coffee. From almost nothing in the 1990s, it became the world's second largest coffee exporter. Rwanda, a small African country, branded its specialty coffee to premium markets. Fiji turned bottled water into $1 billion product. So why not PNG? Here's the reality. Small nations like PNG don't win by being the biggest. They win by being the smartest, by focusing on quality, branding, and ownership. If PNG captures just 1% of the global coffee market, or 1% of the cocoa market, or negotiates stronger LNG deals, the impact on our economy would be massive. The choice is simple: stay as a supplier of raw materials, or rise as a true competitor in trillion-dollar markets. So I'll leave you with this challenge. What should PNG own next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is not just a question for economists and politicians. It's a question for every Papua New Guinean who believes we can compete with the giants.